Hello everyone, welcome to today's video. This is English Made Easy by IBPS Guide. So today we will be taking a look at cloze test. The cloze test is nothing but a closed passage with multiple blanks, and you have several options for each of these blanks. We will be looking at strategies to solve these questions, and we will be looking at examples as well. Before we begin, I'd like to tell you a little about IBPS Guide. On our website, we provide you with free questions on a daily basis. You can use them to prepare for your banking exams as well as SSC exams. You can also check out our test series, which are of the highest standards, and all the questions come with detailed solutions. We also provide you with smart analysis at the end of every test. You can use that to understand which areas you need to work on and which areas are your strengths. Our content is also available in Hindi and English. You can switch between the two as per your preference. You can access our website through the mobile application and also our desktop site. For any more details on our quality mock tests, please visit our e-store at estore.ibpsguide.com. Do check out our English eBook Pro exclusively on the new pattern. There are over 1,000 practice questions and all of them come with detailed explanations. Topics covered are error spotting, sentence arrangement, synonyms, antonyms, reading comprehension, sentence correction, phrase replacement, and cloze test. All the questions that have been asked in the recent bank exams have been covered in this ebook. You can check out this ebook at estore.ibpsguide.com. Let's begin by taking a look at the cloze test strategies. First, you read the whole passage. You do this in order to get a gist of what they're trying to say. You need to understand what they're talking about, right? So read the whole passage and then answer the questions as you read the passage part by part. So when you are answering the questions, you need to read each part of the question separately and then answer the question to the blank in that particular sentence. Next, understand the meaning. Like I already told you, it's important to understand the meaning conveyed or the intended meaning before you start answering. Third, pay attention to the tone of the passage. This is a very easy way to answer this question. Now, if you're reading the sentence and if the tone is positive, then you can eliminate options that are negative and vice versa. Fourth point, take note of what precedes and follows the blank. The reason we're doing this is so that we can apply grammar rules, right? There are lots of grammar rules we can use to help us find the correct answer. For example, articles are always followed by nouns. Similarly, prepositions are always followed by nouns, right? So we know that there are a lot of grammar rules like this that we can apply in order to find the correct answer. And this will also help you eliminate the wrong answers according to word class. Fifth point, eliminate options that do not fit the context or tone. So we already discussed this. When you read the passage, you will get an idea of what the context is, and you will eliminate options that don't fit either the context or the tone. Okay, sixth point, eliminate options based on grammar, importantly SVA, articles, tense, and prepositions. So when you read the sentence, you should be paying attention to these. Now, SVA is nothing but subject-verb agreement. So if the blank has to be filled by a verb, it has to agree in number with the subject. And if there is a preposition before the blank has to be filled by a noun. Similarly, if there is an article before the blank, again the blank has to be filled by a noun. So we will be discussing more of these grammar rules as we're going through the examples. Let's begin by reading the passage. We will then look at the questions. By making citizens dash for offering a bribe to a public servant, the anti-corruption law has been brought in line with the UN Convention Against Corruption. The only dash to this rule is when one is forced to give a bribe. This exception kicks in only when the fact that one was forced to pay a bribe is reported to a law enforcement authority within 7 days. the penal provision can dash people by allowing them to cite it to refuse to pay a bribe. At the same time, what happens when the police or any other agency dash to register a complaint? People may be left in the lurch with no dash. Further, it may render them vulnerable to threats from dash public servants who collect money to speed up public services but do not deliver. Okay, so when you read this passage, you can get the gist that they are talking about the pros and cons of the anti-corruption law that has been enforced recently. Right, so let's take a look at the placement of these blanks and see if we can use any grammar rules to help us find the right answer. Okay, so the first blank says by making citizens dash. So here citizens is in plural form, and we should keep an eye out for subject-verb agreement when we're looking at the options. Next, the second blank is the only dash. So here it has the article the, so we should be looking at nouns. The third blank says the penal provision can dash. So here it is following the modal verb can, which means it has to be in the verb one form, the first form. Okay, the fourth blank says what happens when the police or any other agency dash. So here again we should be paying attention to subject-verb agreement because they have mentioned more than one subject but they've used or. So the fifth blank says the people may be left in the lurch without dash. So without is a preposition, and we already know that articles and prepositions are followed by a noun and it can only be separated by an adjective. Next blank says further it may render them vulnerable to threats from dash. Again here from is a preposition, so we need to see what comes after the blank. After the blank it says public servants, which is a noun. So blank 6 has to be filled by an adjective. We will be discussing all of these grammar rules in detail when we're looking at the options. Now we are going to be reading the passage part by part and answering the questions as we go. So the first sentence is by making citizens dash for offering a bribe to a public servant, the anti-corruption law has been brought in line with the UN Convention Against Corruption. So by making citizens dash. So obviously they are making citizens either do something or feel something, right? So let's take a look at the options and we can eliminate things that are not fitting this context. The first option is enfeebled. Okay, so what does enfeebled mean? It means to make someone feel weak or powerless, right? So enfeeble is a verb. You can see that it is ending with ed in its past form, so it's a verb. So we're looking for either a verb or an adjective. So we can eliminate nouns, right? Okay. Next, option B is encouragement. Encouragement, you can clearly see, is a noun. It is the name of the act of encouraging someone, right? So encourage is the verb and encouragement is the noun. So we don't need nouns in this blank. We can eliminate option B. So option C is liable. Holding someone liable means holding them responsible, right? Liable is an adjective. It describes something. All right, option D is criminal. So we know that criminal is the name of a person who is involved in crime. So it's a noun. And like I said before, we don't need a noun in this blank. Since they are making citizens either do or feel something, it has to be either a verb or an adjective. Okay, so let's take a look at what options we have left. We have options A and C. Option A is enfeebled and option C is liable. So when you look at the context, they're talking about something that has been done to make the anti-corruption law stronger, right? So do you think that by making people feel weak and powerless, you can improve the anti-corruption law? That doesn't make sense contextually, right? Although grammatically it is fine. So the other option is liable, and liable means responsible, right? So when you put that in the sentence, It makes perfect sense. By making people responsible for giving a bribe, they have made anti-corruption laws stronger or better, right? So option C, liable, is the correct answer in this blank. So we eliminated two options based on grammar and we eliminated one option based on context. The second sentence is, the only dash to this rule is when one is forced to give a bribe. This exception kicks in only when the fact that one was forced to pay a bribe is reported to a law enforcement authority within 7 days. Okay, so the general rule is that articles and prepositions are always followed by a noun. So in this sentence, the article the is followed by only, which is not a noun, right? So that means that only is used as an adjective in this sentence. It is describing the noun that is in the blank. So now let's look at the options. Option A is ensnare. Ensnare means to trap something, right? And you can use this in the ed form. Ensnared, he ensnared the animal. So this obviously is a verb and we cannot use this in the blank because we need a noun. So we'll eliminate option A. Okay, option B is exception. So we can see that exception is in its noun form. Except is the verb, exception is the noun. So we will keep option B. Again, option C is swayed. It's in its ed form. It's a verb. So we will eliminate this option. And option D is circumvention. Again, this is a noun, so we will keep this. Now we're left with two nouns, exception and circumvention. So we know that an exception is a special case where we're doing things out of the ordinary. Okay, so to circumvent something means to go around something, right? If you have an obstacle and you go around it, that means you are circumventing the obstacle. So in this sentence, both of these words make sense. You can say that the only exception to this rule, or you can also say the only circumvention to this rule, which means the only way to get around this rule, right? So in times like this, usually there will be a clue in the next sentence. Let's read the next sentence. It says, this exception kicks in only when the fact that one was forced to pay a bribe is reported to a law enforcement authority within 7 days, right? So the beginning of the next sentence itself is this exception, right? So here is our clue. We know that in the previous sentence also they have talked about the exception, because in the next sentence they have referred to it with this exception. So that is the correct answer, option B, exception. Let's read the third sentence. The penal provision can dash people by allowing them to cite it to refuse to pay a bribe. Okay, so you can see that just before the blank there is the modal verb can, and modal verbs are always followed by the verb in its first form. Okay, can, could, might, may, ought, all of these are modal verbs and they are always supposed to be followed by a verb in its first form, which means we can eliminate options where the verb is not in its first form. You can see that option A is empower, option B decipher, C embroiled, and D perplexing. So you can eliminate options C and D. Can is always followed by verb in its first form, and the only thing that can come between these two is an adjective, right? But since there is no verb after the blank, we know that the blank itself has to have the verb and not an adjective. So the two options we're left with is empower and decipher. Empower means to give power to or make stronger, and decipher means to decode something or to understand something that is difficult to understand, right? So the penal provision can decipher people does not make sense. You're not decoding people, right? So the only option that is making sense and is correct grammatically and contextually is option A, empower. The penal provision can empower people by allowing them to cite it to refuse to pay a bribe. Therefore, option A is the correct answer. We eliminated 2 options based on grammar and 1 option based on context. Fourth sentence is, at the same time, what happens when the police or any other agency dash to register a complaint? So I told you that in this sentence we need to pay attention to the subject-verb agreement because there are 2 subjects mentioned, but they have used the conjunction or, which means any one, right? So here sometimes people mistake this to be a plural subject, but it is not a plural subject when the police or any other agency, right? It's either the police or it's the other agency, correct? So it's one or the other, which means your subject is singular. So be very careful when you are using the conjunction or, it makes the subject singular. Okay, so this means that the blank has to be filled with a singular verb as well. Also, don't get confused by the subjects that they have mentioned. They have said the police, right? And it's possible that in certain situations you are considering the police as a plural subject when you're talking about the many members present in the police force, right? But here we are talking about it as one entity, like you're saying the government, right? You're not talking about the members of the government, you're talking about the government as a single entity. So in that case, it is a singular subject, right? So here, the police or any other agency, they are both singular subjects and not plural subjects, even by themselves. Okay, so let's take a look at the options. We are looking for a singular verb. Option A, perishes. B, crumbles. C, decline. D, refuses. So perishes, crumbles, refuses, they are all in the singular form. So you can eliminate option C, decline. Okay, so option A, perishes. This does not make sense because to perish means to die. And how can the police force die or the agency die, right? So we can eliminate option A, it does not make sense contextually. And option B is crumbles. This again does not make sense contextually because crumbles means to fall apart, right? You're not able to hold it together. That's what crumbling means. And a police department can't crumble to register a complaint, right? So we've eliminated option B as well, which leaves us with option D, refuses. At the same time, what happens when the police or any other agency refuses to register a complaint? So this makes sense contextually and is also grammatically correct. Option D is the correct answer to this question. So the fifth question is, people may be left in the lurch without dash. So we discussed this earlier. Articles and prepositions are always followed by nouns and can only be separated by adjectives. So here we are going to look at the options and we'll eliminate anything that is not a noun. So option A is retaliatory. To retaliate is to respond to something violently or aggressively, right? And retaliatory is an adjective that describes acts of retaliation. Okay, so we don't need an adjective, which means we'll eliminate option A. So option B is indulgent. Again here, the verb indulge means to allow yourself to enjoy something, and indulgent describes someone who behaves in such a way. So indulgent is also an adjective, which means we can eliminate option B as well. Option C is confiding. As you can see, this is a verb. To confide means to tell the truth to someone or to share something with someone, right? So since this is a verb, we're eliminating this option as well. which leaves us with option D, redress. What does redress means? It means to address, grievances or problems, to solve something or provide remedy for something, a solution, right? So when you look at it contextually also, this makes a lot of sense. So they're saying that due to the flaws in the anti-corruption law, people will be left without a solution or a remedy when they complain about someone who's taking a bribe, right? So option D, redress, is the correct answer for this question. Here we eliminated all the options just based on the grammar and were able to find the correct answer easily. The last question is, further, it may render them vulnerable to threats from dash public servants who collect money to speed up public services but do not deliver. Okay, so here you can see that the blank is preceded by a preposition from. So what is the rule about prepositions? Prepositions and articles are always followed by a noun, and the only thing that can come between them is an adjective. So let's take a look at what is after the blank. So it says from dash public servants. So clearly, public servants is a noun. It's the name of a group of people or officials, right? This means that the blank has to be filled with an adjective. So when you have a preposition or an article before a blank, you should always check what is after the blank. If you have a noun after the blank has to be filled by an adjective that describes the noun, right? Okay, so now we're looking for an adjective that describes the public servants who are taking bribes. So option A is perishes. It means to die, and this is a verb, so we cannot use option A. We need an adjective that describes the public servants who are taking bribes. So option B is intelligent. Now, intelligent is not something you would use to describe people who are, malpracticing and doing illegal things, right? So although intelligent is an adjective, we'll eliminate it based on the context because we're looking for something to describe people who are doing illegal things, okay? All right, C, unscrupulous. What does unscrupulous mean? This is an adjective that is used to describe people who have no morals, who are not honest, and they're doing unfair things, right? So this makes perfect sense in the context because we're looking to describe the public servants who are taking bribes. So if you say unscrupulous public servants, it fits the sentence perfectly and it's also grammatically correct, right? So let's take a look at option D anyway. It says brilliance, which is in its noun form. So this couldn't have been used in the sentence. Therefore, our correct answer is option C, unscrupulous. So let's just quickly go through all the things that we learned in this video. So first thing is articles are always followed by nouns and they can only be separated by an adjective. Second, prepositions are also always followed only by nouns and can only be separated by an adjective. Third, modal verbs are always followed by verbs in their first form, that is their present form, and they also can only be separated by adjectives. Fourth point is that the subject and verb must always agree in number. Fifth point, the subject is treated as singular when referring to an organization or a group as a whole, like we saw earlier, the police, the agency, right? Sixth point, words that take the ed form are verbs. And seventh point, words ending with ment or ness are definitely nouns. For more examples and sample question papers, please check out our English ebook Pro. All the questions are in the new pattern and all of them come with detailed solutions. To check out this ebook, please visit estore.ibpsguide.com. Alright everyone, that's all for today's video. I hope you found the tips useful. Do leave your thoughts in the comments section below. We would love to know what topics you want us to cover in the next video. If you liked this video, please like, share, and subscribe for regular updates. We will be uploading more tips and tricks videos and videos on vocabulary as well. As always, work hard and work smart.